Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Theory. In today's video, we have Michael from King George, Virginia, and he wanted to share his Bigfoot encounter that he had one night while driving on the road with his friend. Michael got a really good look at the creature, and he was able to share many details regarding his experience. A lot of Bigfoot are seen crossing roadways, and I think a majority of reports are from people who have seen them while riding in their vehicles down forested roads. Michael claims he reported his sighting to the BFRO, and I am glad he contacted me to share his report with all of us. Virginia is a heavily forested area, and it doesn't surprise me that cryptid creatures are hiding within its steep ravines and hollers. If you have followed the cryptid phenomenon for a while now, you will know that there are cryptid encounters from the West Coast stretching all the way to the East Coast. So this tells us that these things are a global-wide phenomenon, and it's only a matter of time until the truth starts to reveal itself, and one day the veil will be lifted. What kind of an impact would this have on the world and humanity if mankind knew that this was truly going on out there? Would it be a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Michael also wants to share his paranormal experiences, so if you enjoy that, he will be talking about that as well. If you have seen a cryptid creature and would like to come on the show to talk about it, please contact me sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Alright everyone, with all of that being said, let's dive into this next Bigfoot encounter from the state of Virginia. Michael, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Good to hear. Michael, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Bigfoot encounters from the very beginning, please.
Yeah. So my name's Michael. I'm from the Northern Neck. I'm living here now. I lived here all my life. It's in Virginia, like kind of the eastern side of Virginia. Yeah, I've had a few different weird encounters and just theories I think that are pretty interesting that I'd like to share. So I'll take you through the main one that happened to me a few years ago. Good number of years ago now, almost 10. So I think it happened. I'm not really great with dates, but around 2015, I was headed to to town to pick up some stuff, and I went the way I normally go, which is down through a road called Totem Road. Um, that is in King George, kind of in between, where I live and the town. Um, Down at night, it was dark. I had headlights on the car, which they weren't really terrible bright, but they were bright enough so I could see what was going on. But we broke the turn onto Totem Road, and we started going up this hill. And as I was looking up, kind of ahead of me, just kind of scanning for deer and other stuff like that, because we have a lot of deer in the area, I noticed that I saw something kind of far away, and I was like, yeah, whatever, keep going. If it jumps the road, try to miss it. But as I was going through, I noticed that this thing was big. It was like kind of getting bigger. It was almost like I was standing back with a camera, zooming into it, kind of as I was. It looked really weird, so it threw me off. So as we're driving, I'm getting these weird, like recalling what happened. I'm getting these weird images that kind of like pop in my head of like the face of this thing and the inside, the way it was standing. It was facing, we'll say it was facing the middle of the road. So as I was looking at it, its left shoulder was closest to me, and I could actually see, and this happened as I got closer, I could actually see the inside of this thing's like palm. And it was like, I don't know, the best way I can explain it was like a gorilla's hand. Like, it was weird, but Anyway, as I got closer to it, I realized how big this thing was, and I had to lean kind of over my steering wheel and look up to see its like chest almost. Like I couldn't really see its head when I was up close because it was just huge. I mean, it was big, bigger than anything. Like I mentioned in my report that I ended up putting the report on BFRO too. Of like it's bigger than if you were to take a cow and stand it straight up on its hind legs. It was bigger than that. It was huge. So shoulders were really broad. The the bottom of the chin, I got a little bit of a look of, and it didn't look like it was joined. I know a lot of people say that the chin and the chest are like joined. It almost looked like it had a beard, if that makes sense. So as I was, driving by, I was like, holy cow, and I passed it. And usually, like, I don't know, I'm pretty passive with a lot of stuff. And it kind of hit me as I passed it. I was like, at first I was like, yeah, whatever, it's probably nothing. And then it was like just the most primal thing. It was like something inside of me was like, what the heck was that? And I turned to the guy that was with me, and I was like, did you see that? And he was like, no. And he kind of sat up in his seat because he got scared. I don't usually, the guy that I was with, I spent a lot of time with him early on, like, well, a while ago, but he knew something was up. As soon as I was like, did you see that? He's like, he knew with the tone. It was like something was wrong. And I was like, dude, did you see that? And I got louder and louder. I was like, holy shit. And, sorry, but
You're fine.
I kept driving, and I kept driving. I went about, I think it was a quarter mile that I went up, and you can hit a turnaround. And that's what I did. I spun the car and hit the gas. And when I got back to the spot where this kind of encounter happened, I positioned the car to where I could shine the headlights into the woods. Couldn't see anything over there. I looked for a good minute, put the car in reverse, kind of turned it back to the other side of the road to look across, because it's like something that just stupid I thought of was, why'd the chicken cross the road? Or you know what I mean? Like I was like, it had to go across. It was facing that way. It had to go. So I shined I shined my headlights over, and I looked, and it was gone. Just I didn't see anything. And immediately when I knew that whatever it was, how big it was, and this is the part that really hit me, I was like, whatever it was massive, and it moved faster. It had to have moved faster than anything. I couldn't imagine its speed. It had to be running really fast. So I was like, well, let me try to rationalize this. Let me think. And I'm like looking at the road. I'm like, well, the road is, however many feet wide. I'm like, I couldn't step this road in 2 steps. There's no way. Even full blown sprint, there's no way. So I'm freaked out. It's instantaneously, as soon as I don't see it anymore, I'm like, oh God, it's around here somewhere, and it might be watching me. Gotta go. So the guy that was with me knew. He said, as soon as you said that first, did you see that? He's like, I knew you saw something, and it wasn't something normal. I'm like, yeah, whatever it was, I'm freaked out. And we turned around and we hightailed it out of there. I was like, I'm not sticking around to find out what that thing was, as much as I'd love to. At that point, I was pretty inquisitive. I was like, I gotta find out. I gotta know. But I so after that encounter, and I don't know if this is a normal thing. You probably hear about this more than I would, but if it's even a thing. But I started getting flashes of images, almost like flashbacks. I don't want to say flashbacks, but they were almost like flashbacks in my head. Like I could see the hand, and I could see the shoulders, I could see its chin, I could see just the whole situation over again. And it was like the most real thing. I like blacked out behind the wheel, and I was consciously making decisions and driving, but these things just kept flashing in my head. And it was like, whoa, like this is this is different. This is weird. Something, I don't know if it was just my brain trying to make sense of it or what, but I've had my whole life, I've had spiritual encounters. Like I've seen, ghosts, if you will. I've been able to talk to spirits before. Um, and I think this was a similar, it's kind of a similar feeling that, I don't know, I store those things differently, I guess, in my body, my brain, my spirit. It's like I know how those things feel, and it felt very reminiscent of something just different, not of human design. You know what I mean? Like not like it was a person. There's no way.
Yeah.
So after I got these flashes and everything, I started recollecting like everything else. And one of the things that the first thing, I'm like, this is a dude in a Chewbacca outfit. That's the first thing. I'm like, somebody likes Star Wars. Somebody's got a Chewbacca outfit. And then I remembered the size and I remembered the hair. So the hair or fur, whatever, that's what threw me the over the edge even further, because the hair had this, like, I don't know, it's like I could almost see each individual like strain of hair, and the way that the light refracted around it was weird. It almost had like a shimmer. It's like as I got closer to it and as the headlights hit it more and more and more, um, I could just see the hair had just a weird like glow about it almost. So it's all these things in account. It's like the hand, the palm, and there was even in my, when I had these flashes in my head on the right hand, um, there was actually, I could I could pick out from these like images I was getting in my head that this one had a scar kind of across its palm and down through what I would call its ring finger and like pinky finger, if I had to put it in, human terms. Um, and it was a deep gash. It was like you could see it put its hand on something and it cut it or something, but you can see that it was a healed wound. So that was definitely something that stuck out. In the eyes too. I feel like the other flash imagery that I got was the eyes from afar away were just huge and like black, like pitch black, like that like Venta black you see people painting like Lamborghinis and stuff. It was like that. Like there was just nothing but just black. So, and I've seen some really freaky spiritual stuff that resembles like really evil spirits that have blackened eyes and things of that, I guess, effect, that it didn't feel the same. Like it just felt like there was nothing there. Like I don't know, how else really to explain it. But one of the things the other thing that stuck out to me is like after this I started doing research, and I'm like, what did I see? Well, I have to know what I saw. And my family's, they're not a stranger to like supernatural, cryptids and stuff like that. Like my dad used to tell me stories about um the like hairy man kind of stories. My dad's Native American, so he's got a few of the hairy man stories in his back pocket. So I grew up with it, but it wasn't something that really we talked about a whole bunch, because we didn't really, nobody around here really talked about it. And up until recently, I think more people started to come out with the cutouts, and there's a lot of claims on the BFRO and stuff of happenings. So I think people are more open to the idea a lot more now than they were back when this happened. So a lot of this stuff I kept to me, told my close family and friends, and if people wanted to know about it, if they heard about it and they wanted to hear, I'd tell them like exactly the same thing I'm telling you. It's like big, like dark brown with patches of silverish color, like hair, big black eyes, gigantic broad shoulders, huge hand with a strike across its palm down to its pinky ring finger, like all the details. It's like, it's so clear. It's crazy. But as I was looking things up, one of the things that I thought of was the way that a lot of people say it looks like the chin and the chest are like conjoined almost, and it made me think of I think it's howler monkeys. There's a monkey that it can like inflate its chin and make some really, really strong, verbose noises that like I've heard before in like zoos and stuff like that, where you can just feel it in your chest. And it's a small animal that's doing this. And it makes me, I have a few working theories that I'll talk about in a little bit. But one of them involves that I think that some of these noises that a lot of people hear with these creatures is something along the lines of maybe a howler monkey, and maybe the way that if their chin and chest is conjoined, maybe they can, inflate per se like a howler monkey and make these noises that people are hearing. And that's one of the ways I think I kind of like think about it. Like, man, it's like it's almost like they're not doing it with their lungs. It's like they're doing it some other way. Some of the vocalizations that I've heard, it's like just freaky stuff. But I could see that when I looked at the one. I have a really good like near photographic memory with a lot of this stuff, and that the chin thing stuck out to me amongst everything else. It's kind of stuck out to me. The whole situation stuck out to me, but the chin really got me for sure. It was like, whoa, that's something. And then I started to put two and two together and started thinking about it. I'm like, man, maybe that's what they're hearing, and maybe maybe I really did see one, because I didn't want to believe it at first. I was like, there's no way. There's no way that happened here. This is such a small little place. It's like, there's no way. But native in the area, I mean, there's water streams. There's where it happened. There is, I guess, really right behind where this creature was standing is cattle. Like, they hold cattle there. I don't know what it would traditionally be called, but they have a few cows, and they have big bulls there and a few like cows and stuff. So it's to me, I'm like, I don't know if maybe they were there for that, or if they were there just following the water supply. I guess there's plenty of reasons why it could have been there. And I think there was only one. Like, I don't remember seeing a second one, but I don't have enough, I guess, studies to know, or evidence to see if there could have been a possibility of another one. So that's, I guess, up for debate at this point. But that is pretty much the encounter
Okay.
that I had with all the.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you for sharing all that. And let's talk about this encounter before we move on to the paranormal stuff, if you're okay with talking about that too.
Totally, yeah.
All right. So you're in a Volkswagen Passat, correct? And
Yeah.
were you kind of like looking up out the window to see the creature?
Yeah, so I'm a taller guy. I'm 6'5", like 300 pounds. Back then I was probably 240 pounds, whatever. But I'm tall. So when I'm in the driver's seat, my seat's kind of far-ish back. I had to pull myself up, and I put my head over the steering wheel, almost into the dashboard. And I had to like turn my head a really weird way to look up. And I looked up, and it was like, by the time it was past and I couldn't see it anymore, I couldn't get a good enough look at its head with my own eyes. But I got a far off look in my head, if that makes sense. Like, the imagery that I was getting painted the rest of the picture. So I knew what its head looked like, and I knew that it wasn't just a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
and were the eyes round, big and round?
yeah. They were like perfect circles almost. Just black, like the imagery I got in my head was like these big, black, perfectly round like circles. It's like, if I could draw good, I could draw you a good picture.
Yeah.
It's like it happened yesterday. I mean, they were big, big, black and round.
Okay. And you said the creature was like a brown color, but he also had other colors in his fur or hair.
Yeah. It was a brown. It was like a deep, like reddish brown, and there was streaks of like silver or gray, I would say. There were little just streaks here and there. There was one that was on its chest, that went from, I would say, the top of its left of it no not left yeah left shoulder. Went from the top of its left shoulder, like collarbone area, down to like the bottom of its right pectoral, and then there was a long strip that went kind of down its almost down its sternum. If I had to say, a sternum had right in the middle of its chest. There was just another gray streak that went down, and there was others. I mean, I could list them all day, but those are the ones that were like the most notable, I think.
Yeah. And the creature that I encountered here where I live at, it was jet black, but on its back it had like this whitish gray stripe that went from like its shoulder blade right above its butt,
Hmm.
and it had another one on the other shoulder blade that did the same thing, and it kind of reminded me of a skunk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember you saying that. Yeah, and it definitely like that rings a bell with me because it's the shape of it. It's not like you. I don't know. The best way I can explain it is you can look at something and tell if it was man-made. Like sharp angles don't happen in nature. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like if that was a suit that someone made, I feel like I would be able to tell if it was like if it was made, if somebody just sewed it or whatever with some materials. This just nothing, everything about it just looks so natural, like it was like a skunk. Like you look at a skunk and it's like black straight line. I mean, it's clear, and that is. I mean, exactly. Like it wasn't black, but it was definitely different. You can see the differences clearly.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And your friend, was he looking down at his phone or looking at something else when it
So
happened?
he was kind of looking all over the place. He was a little squirrely. He was out the windshield, out his window, fiddling with the CD player, or fiddling with the iPod or whatever. Like at that time, I don't think he was looking at a phone or a device. No, I think he was looking out of his window. I feel like that's why I feel like when I asked him, "Did you see that?" I felt like I asked him that because I knew he wasn't looking in the actual like 12 o'clock. He wasn't looking right in the middle. So I feel like he would have missed it, but he would have caught a glimpse of it looking out of his window. So that's why I'm like, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You didn't see that?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "We have to turn around. Like, we're turning around." And he's like, "You're scaring me right now, dude." He's like, "Something's wrong with you." I'm like, "Dude, nothing's wrong with me. I'm telling you, I saw something." And we turned around. It was like he didn't see it at all. So it's just, yeah, it was odd.
Yeah. And when you turned around and you guys came back to that spot, were you parked in the middle of the road? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I slammed. I didn't care whoever thought what. I was looking. I'm like, I saw something. I pulled it kind of. I drove down the road, obviously safely on my side of the road. As soon as I hit the spot where the encounter happened, I caddy cornered right in the middle of the road, hit the high beams, turned on fall. Any light I had on my car, I turned it on. So turned that on, and then immediately put it in reverse and kind of backed up again right in the middle of the road, shining it across the road to the other 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock kind of coverage.
Yeah. And did the creature come out of thick woods and go back into thick woods, or was it going into like farm property?
So the side of the road it was coming from was like farm property. So there's a little, if I had to call it anything, there's like a cutout in the woods that is it's a driveway that it almost looks like a roundabout because there's concrete and brick and stuff in the middle of this roundabout kind of deal. And past that, it's clear. So it's like the roundabout part is clear of woods. There's gravel. There's concrete busted up in the middle, like somebody just dumped it there. And then past that is where the cow, I guess, I don't know, pastures, whatever it'd be called. I'm not, I'm not hip to that terminology, but um, yeah, the cows and stuff were just beyond that. So if I had to guess, I'm on the right side of the road driving. He was facing, he was looking like to my left. So he was looking across the street coming from my side of the road. I would guess going to the other side of the road. So he was coming from a clearing and going into um, relatively dense woods. I mean, I could probably I don't think as big as that person is, I'd have to run really fast to hide. But I feel like me as a I don't want to say normal sized human being, but me as the size I am, I feel like I wouldn't have to run as far as he would to hide. I could literally run right into the woods, maybe 20, 30 feet and just lay down and be gone. But this thing, how big it was, I'm like, get the lights in there, high beams, and I started looking initially really deep, like into the woods, because I knew he had to go far in if he was going to hide. But that
Yeah.
was my that was me, 2015-ish. Like I didn't really think about a lot of the things I think about now with them, and some of the theories and some of the stuff I've watched from you is really like gives me a lot of good information and things to think about now. Like that thing could have just easily outsmarted me and hid, maybe 20 feet in the woods, and I might not even seen it. Just because I think my dad used to call them masters of the woods when he told me stories about them. And I think that's the truth. I think they just, they know it. It's like better than we do, better than anybody could, I feel. So that thing could have been 10, 20 feet off the road and I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it had to been around somewhere. And I could relate with you because whenever I seen that jet black Sasquatch with the white stripes, I had to see it
Mhm.
again. So I took off running around my yard and I tried cutting it off, and I could hear it huffing in the woods, but I was fear stricken after that. And I just stepped back into the yard and went back up to my house in disbelief just because
Yeah.
it all hit me right there. It's like I seen it, now I can hear it, and I didn't want to go into the woods. It freaked me out. Every time I had an encounter, I was stricken with fear. Even the little juvenile, like I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I thought, man, God is real. Everything is real. Like everything everybody told us, aliens, reptilians, whatever, all that stuff is probably real just because I laid eyes on a Sasquatch. And whenever I seen that little juvenile, I knew that what I had seen prior to that was reality. And after that feeling went away, I was like, all right, mom and dad has to be around here somewhere. So I went back to my house.
Yeah. That's the part that scares me. The one that I saw, I think, um, I don't, I don't know, I don't know how old I would place it. You know what I mean? Like if I had to guess an age, like it seemed to be older. It wasn't like, I've heard some accounts that the people were talking about where you can tell it's a juvenile or a younger, like a preteen era, like Bigfoot, Sasquatch. This one, I don't know. It didn't really have any mannerisms that would make me think it was younger, and it definitely made me think like it was an adult. Just based off the mannerisms and a little bit of like the body language and the movement I saw from it. It didn't seem it did, and that's the other thing about it is it didn't. None of the movements seemed careless. Everything seemed just so calculated. Like it knew it didn't waste any energy. It knew exactly what it was doing. Like it just had been caught. Like
Yeah. If you would describe the hair again, you said it had like this shimmer to it, this shine.
yeah, yeah. The best way I can really explain it is I've seen, if you look at hair, at least, well, with my experience, I don't look at things under a microscope very often, but when you put hair under a microscope, at least some of the pictures that I've seen, it has like two phases, I guess. This is one way I can explain it. Is it's like the outside of the hair is like it's almost like it's out of focus. It almost looks transparent. And then the inner strand of it kind of has a thickness to it where you can't see through it. So that's what it looked like to me, is that the outer edge of the hair had almost a transparency to it, and the way that light refracted or made its way around it was different. It's almost like it absorbed a little bit of that light, and um it would, I'm trying to think of the right word, it would pass through the rest of that strand of hair, I guess, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it's almost
Yeah.
like the light hit that hair and it just illuminated the entire hair. Like I could pick out individual, like almost strands of hair. It was really thick hair.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of this stuff is pretty difficult to explain, isn't it? It was hard for me to find the right terminology to explain the features on the Sasquatch that I encountered.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's such a weird thing, and I think that there's a lot of people out there, like, if you would, non-believers. I think that a lot of them might not really understand what it's like because they might not have had an encounter, but it's really hard to explain, and it makes us all sound like we're oh, well, I heard this guy say that, well, let me say what he said because that makes sense. But I mean, maybe that's the case. Maybe we're saying what the other people have said because we don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to get it out other than like, yeah, the hair looks like it's kind of almost under a microscope, and it illuminates, and it's just a weird shimmer to it almost. Like I don't know. Like hopefully other people hear it and say like, oh my God, yeah, maybe he's right. Hopefully it shines some light on what other people are seeing too, because it was weird. It was definitely weird. Nothing like I've ever seen before.
Yeah. And you said it had like a beard?
Yeah, yeah, very much. Yeah, it was very like it was wiry like I say wiry. It looked like the rest of the hair, but it almost looked like it was like covering um like it's if I had to put it in a place like this hair, the way this hair came down, and I'm sitting here doing my hand on my face like you can see this. Um it's the way it comes down, it sat straight down, and it's almost like it was covering, like I could see skin behind it, almost like a grayish kind of tan. It looked like it was like sensitive skin. Like you can look, it's like the back of your hand versus the front of your hand. Like it looked like underneath of the beard, directly behind it. What I would say is its neck was very, yeah, very sensitive skin.
Yeah. And I've heard descriptions in the past where the Sasquatch have these giant scars. How do you think the Sasquatch you encountered received the scar on his hand?
Um, I don't know. I mean, just based off of other claims that I've heard and other reports that I've heard, like on your channel, different places and stuff. I would assume that to them is like you go to work and you get a little cut on your hand. Like for me, like, oh, that's nothing. Like to me, that scar looks like it was something. It didn't look like to me, just based on the size and everything about the creature, it didn't look like it hurt him very much. So to me, it's like it has to be affiliated to maybe a natural activity that it does. And I think of like tree bends and breaks. Maybe a tree bend and snapped just right, and maybe it caught him, or maybe he was crossing a barbed wire fence or something, and it nicked him. But I'm not sure. It was relatively deep. It was deep enough that I could in these images that I was getting in my head, I could pick it out. I could see, oh, there's a scar on his hand. Like something got him. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely,
that's what I was thinking
it
too,
was
is a
deep.
barbed wire fence, or maybe it grabbed like a giant buck and cut its hand or something.
hmm Something sharp. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, the barbed wire for sure. And that's the thing, is I don't know. I could sit here and ramble for days about maybe that's so the cattle to the right. I guess let me get this out before I say this next thing. The cattle that's to the right, if I'm not mistaken, I'm seeing in my head is that there is barbed wire around. Like I feel like I've seen barbed wire around that area. Like, so I don't know if maybe it's something that he's come there before, and it could have happened there. There's no telling. I mean, it's a big world. I'm sure they have a huge radius of where they reside. So I'm sure it could have happened anywhere, but it may have been something that he had before at that location. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that makes
really hard to
sense.
tell.
Okay. So you said it had long arms. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything was proportionate, but they were long. Like everything was real. I've heard of some people saying that their arms come down like really far. I've heard of some people saying that their arms are proportionate to their size, and then I've heard of different claims where people say that their arms are relatively short comparative to their torso and their legs. But this one, yeah, he had, yeah, long. I say he. I don't know what it was, but it had really really long arms, like to where I don't know. I have long arms myself. I can put my hand straight down, and I'm like right in the middle of my thigh, maybe a third of the way down my thigh. His were like almost touching. He could probably touch his knee. Like his are pretty. They're pretty far down. His hands were really big too. I feel like his hand made up a good portion of Um, yeah, his hand made up a good portion of its arm. Like its hand definitely added to the length of its overall arm.
Yeah. And this thing was built, right?
Oh, he was stocky. Yeah, he was huge. Yeah, his shoulders were just big and like they're big and round and just strong. Like, and there was no it. I couldn't see skin under the fur of like its arms, but I can tell that there was really refined, like I would say bicep muscles. Like I could see there was like his fur, the way its fur hair was, there you could see that there was like I guess a bulge under its like the way the fur grew around his bicep. It had a big bicep. He's definitely strong.
Yeah. It's wild how people have to work out just to get built, but like even like animals, they're just built naturally. Even an animal
Hmm.
that's inside like a bully breed or a pit bull, if even if a person has them inside their whole life, like you feel them and they're just solid muscle.
They're stout. Yeah, this thing was stout for sure. Like I know, and honestly, I mean, if they're, I've heard a bunch of different claims too about different things that they eat. But I know there's a difference. I have a lot of friends that do a bunch in the industry of health and food and working out and stuff like that. And there's just I feel like there's just a difference in the in the people that are vegan that I know that also work out. Like they're just their bodies are different. It's so weird, but like it's a lean. Those people that are vegans and work out that I know are very lean, and that's the way I would kind of describe this thing. That there was not a lot of fat. It was very lean, and it was just strong. Like if that thing, I feel like if that thing wanted to, just based off of the quick glimpse that I got, if it wanted to, it probably it probably could have flipped if I were at the extreme, it could have flipped my car over very easy or picked up one of those cows. Like I'm not saying that it did pick up a cow, but it was very strong. Like it was like unworldly. Like this thing is toned, defined. It needs a jersey and a helmet on, like type deal. Like he's fast. He's got to go. Like
Yeah, and in the report you sent into my email, you saw it mainly from the pec area just above its knees. Like that's where you got the best look at it.
that was the best. Yes, so like center mass, like right, like top middle of its pectoral down to yeah, like just above its knee. Yeah, that's what I could see as I was without leaning forward and without um at the eight. I'm calling it the apex point. The point where I had the best view of it was about 10 or 15 feet away from it, and that's when I could see the top of its pec to just above its knee. And as when I caught that glimpse, it was like my brain took a screenshot, and I was instantly like leaning up to the dashboard to look up at it because I knew it was going to be tall.
Yeah,
Like it was going to be huge.
and you said like on the palm it was like an ape, a grayish black color.
Yeah, it was definitely it was like a grayish black color on the palm, and like I said, the palm that I saw had that gash across it that went across its palm, across what I would say is its ring finger and into its pinky. And what I remember seeing too is, um, I say ring finger and pinky. I remember seeing four fingers, and then there was a thumb in a weird, like different spot, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't like a normal like hand like mine. Like I hold out my hand and my thumb's on my side. Like this thing was like I'd explain it was like down further, and its palm was really long. Like it just I don't know. It was a big hand. Like it was really big.
Can you describe the flashbacks that you were having? And you said you kind of passed out or blacked out while driving.
Yeah, yeah. So if you when you turn onto this road, um, like I said, I'm not great. The reason why I know that it was a quarter mile from my encounter to where I turned around is because I had to look it up. I was like, how fast is that thing? Because I got from here to here, and that equaled a half a mile. So it was fast, whatever it was. So um, as you go up, so you go up a quarter, maybe it's probably a mile, the stretch of road that I was on, and you go kind of up a hill, down a hill, and then you turn left onto another road. I think it's called Windsor Drive or Windsor Road, I think. But from the point when I turned around and I passed, so this is after I saw it, I turned around, I went and looked in the woods with my headlights. I turned around then to go just to continue on my nightly routine of where I was going. So when I turned around finally, I had to go down the road a little bit and come back. When I passed the point of where I had the encounter, that is where I think I started, because I don't remember from basically turning around until the time I was probably a mile down Windsor. And it was one of those snaps like, whoa, I've been driving for the last like 2 miles, like, and I'm alive. Holy crap. Like, I don't remember driving. I don't remember turning on a turn signal. I don't remember any of that. It was just like I blanked, and that's when these images were starting. And yeah, the images kicked on, and then it was blank, blank image, blank, blank image. And then by the time the last image ended, that's when I kind of just was like, I had a big gasp of air, and I was back and I was driving. And that's when I had the realization. I kind of looked around, I looked over at him, and I just looked around and I was like, huh, okay, well, I'm alive. I'm okay. Let me continue driving. And he said to me, he's like, you all right? I was like, yeah. I was like, I think so. I didn't think anything of it, because things like that happen to me all the time. Like when I was younger, and I mean even now, I had things like that all the time where I would seemingly just get this. I thought it was like highway hypnosis, but there's times where like I'll have like complete flashbacks of like things, like little 30 second to a minute intervals of times where it's like I'm blacked out. I don't know what's going on, but I'm it's like I'm watching TV in my brain. So it's really weird, but that was one. I thought it was normal. I was just like, oh, well, I'm just recounting the situation. Like I didn't think anything of it. And then I started getting into the, um, for lack of better words, mystical properties that I've been hearing about and I've been reading. I started thinking, I'm like, man, I wonder if that was related, because it's like I probably went down the road maybe another like maybe eighth mile to turn around to go back. And when I went back, I don't remember when I turned onto that street and got back on the highway the same way I was going when I had my encounter. I just don't remember. And it's like that's kind of the same way that things happened like before with the other things, the other spiritual encounters that I've had.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same kind of just poof, and then you're back.
Yeah. Maybe your brain reset, like it's rewiring itself. Whenever I had my
Mm-hmm.
encounters, like I still to this day, like I see a vivid image of the Sasquatch that I encountered, and I think about it all the time. And like I think about each strain of hair and how the wind was slowly like blowing on its hair, and I could see the strains of hair like blowing back and forth, the way its eyes looked, the head shape, and just what it was doing in
Mm-hmm.
general.
I know that. So to speak on, I guess, the head shape thing too, that I know, and I don't know if I would call the head shape like that conical head shape that you have, that you usually describe.
Hmm.
Um, this thing had its brow was really pronounced. Like I kind of have a bit of, I don't know, pronounced brow. I'm not like a caveman or anything, but I have a bit of a pronounced brow. And I remember seeing the brow, and I'm like, man, yeah, that's a really like forward brow. And then its forehead went up a little bit, and then it kind of started like a I don't know, a roundish conish shape to it. Like I don't know how to how to word it. It's just it had a, maybe it was the conical shape, but just I remember the brow too being just really pronounced and big.
Yeah. And it looks like from the map that you sent me, there's a lot of forest around there, a lot of
Hmm.
waterways, some farmland, and there doesn't look like there's too many houses. I mean, there might be, but I can't tell from the map.
Yeah. There's some, I mean, there's some tucked back in the woods. Like I'm sure that I'm sure that if somebody was out there during that and this thing took off through the woods, I'm sure that they would have heard it. And if they really wanted to, they probably could have seen it. But there, yeah, there is some houses that are tucked back up in the woods in that area. So, and that's why when I looked, really what stemmed me to, I guess, come forward and uh, just get my reports out there, is I started looking on um, the BFRO. I was like, man, I want to see. I just want to see if anybody else is having anything like this, because I've heard of little. And I don't know if it's just an attraction type thing or if this is just legit, but I've heard of people going out and having like little adventures where they'll go out and look for signs, just things. It's kind of like, let's see if we can find it, So I started looking. I'm like, man, I wonder. So that means people are looking for this thing. So that means people, if they're willing to have an event that they advertise, then they're willing to come forward with an encounter. So I'm like, well, so let's look the only place I really know of that logs encounters is the BFRO that I've heard of. So I get on the BFRO, and this is where I start to kind of put things together of the encounter that I had and trying to find if anybody else had one. So there's a couple different, based on my research and what I know of them, they do have a gigantic radius that they kind of operate in. And the radius that I've kind of picked for these things is I don't know, around 100 to 200 miles. It's kind of like, when I think of a radius, I'm like, that seems like a good radius for something this size to hunt on, and if it wants to migrate or move, because I know they do that, then it definitely could go. But it's like, it seems like this radius. So if you lay this radius on, I guess, where I had my encounter, there are, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but there are 5 other accounts within that 100 to 200 mile like radius, and some of them have been accounts with. There's a couple bases around here that have had accounts where they see people, or people have had encounters under night vision, like doing training events and stuff. And those are not far away from where, I mean, they're driving distance for me. I wouldn't mind to take a drive up to that place. It wouldn't hurt me at all. So it's like, you can go north, there's encounters there. You can go south, there's encounters there. Yeah, and it seems like there's a little bit here, a little bit there, but it fits into a pretty big radius. And I'm like, I feel like a lot of this one is coming back, or this one, no, this is his radius. Like, we're in it.
Yeah.
His territory, I guess the word might be. But
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. That's kind of what I've theorized too, is like from the encounter spot, it could be like 50, 60, 70 miles north, 50 to 70 miles south, east, west. But if you go from east to west, that's about 100 miles. And I think people like on YouTube have tagged like house kittens, and just to see where they go. And it's insane. They will go miles and miles and miles and come back. So like Sasquatch, like God knows how far they go.
Yeah, if we put, sadly people do this with stray cats, but if we put Sasquatch in the back of a truck with food and just dropped them off in the middle of what we think is nowhere, he would definitely, there's not a shadow of doubt in my mind, he would find exactly where he came from. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. I think about cats too, like with the, I actually just read a report recently that there's been in where I'm from, there's been reports of people, dropping stray cats off at a road in the town I was actually going to, and the cats, the people that are dropping these cats off, they cross a bridge that is a 4-lane bridge to get there, and the cats are making it back. So the cats are either going over the bridge or they're crossing the water, and it's the Potomac River that is all around us. It's the Potomac River and the Rappahannock River. So if they're sticking close to waterways, I mean, those are 2 major waterways, and the Potomac feeds, if I'm not mistaken, it feeds off of the Chesapeake, and that's a big area, like feeds into the ocean and stuff like that. So
a good way
I
to
can
think of
imagine,
it, a good way to think of it is probably like great white sharks. Like people have tagged them in Australia, and just to see where they go, and they go all over the world, and then come back to that exact spot that they tagged them. It's pretty incredible.
It's wild. It is. It really is.
Okay.
It is incredible. Everything about the encounter was super. It was incredible. Like it, nothing. I don't feel like it's anything anybody can dream up. Like, it's just super real. Is the only way. The 2 words that come to mind when I think of this encounter was just super real. Like, scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And this encounter took place in King George, Virginia. You said that George Washington's birthplace is near this area?
It's very near it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's super close. Within shoot from this encounter, it's probably under 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's close.
George Washington had a supernatural encounter where like this female entity showed up and showed him a map of the United States, and all of a sudden like all the states started showing up, and he could see the borders and the names, and that was on Ancient Aliens, but I don't know, I kind of believed it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've ever really had if you've had an encounter like this, it really opens up. And I have been open to the idea because of some of the spiritual like entities and stuff that I've seen, from a young age. I've really been open to these things. So it didn't the encounter didn't change much in the form of what I believe because I knew that there's just stuff out here that nobody can really explain. Like we can try to, but I think it's just outside of the level of like human comprehension. Like there's just stuff out here that people don't understand, and this is one of them. Like we're trying desperately, but this is definitely one. And I think when it comes to the George Washington experience, that I mean I believe it. It's there's something out there, man. Whatever it is, it's it's definitely out there.
Yeah. And let's move on to your paranormal encounters. Can you describe to me the most vivid encounter that you've had and the one that sticks in your brain the most?
Man, I got so many that are super vivid that they shake me up when I talk about them. I mean, there's some pretty moving stuff. Like I grew up in a really spiritual household, and my mom, she, I'll, I'll I'll say it, and I don't. Hopefully, I don't offend anybody when I say this. My mom has just a direct line to God. Like she is a powerful woman. Like it's insane. Some of the stuff that have happened to us over the years, like my mom has communicated to me without opening her mouth and things like that. And there's some freaky stuff that I just have these flash imagery that I'm telling you about. They've happened with me and my mom where she flashed an image to me. I say she flashed it, but she flashed an image to me that was pretty much my dad passing away. Um, and the picture of it that I got was like how it happened. And my dad, he passed away really recently. And this encounter that I had with my mom with the flashing, that happened I mean years ago. I probably wasn't old enough to drive yet. Um, there's other encounters that happen that I'm bound. I can't physically. I've tried to tell these things, and it's anytime I try to, it's like I cannot talk. So some of those I have to reserve, but there's one, probably the most powerful experience that I ever had, um, that really changed my life. My dad, um, had some really evil stuff attached to him, like really bad stuff from long ago. And there was a night where, um, I pretty much walked into my basement, and there are these two um, there are these two entities standing above my dad. So I walk into the basement. You kind of go down the steps, you bust a right, and there's a corner to your right, and you have to pass that corner, and you can look back kind of into the basement. It's a finished basement. So I bust that corner, and as soon as my left foot lands, I step, and look, and as soon as I look, there are these two entities that are standing above my dad, just looking down at him, and they're talking to each other in a real low like tone, um and I can't quite hear what they're saying. And I went on kind of autopilot mode, and I stepped forward and I said hey, and I they as soon as I said hey, Um, one turned its head to look. The one that was, so my dad, if I'm standing, I'm looking at my dad. He's probably 10, 15 feet away, and I'm looking at his left side. He's sitting on a chair, and he's got both arms kind of up, like, you in school you fall asleep on the desk and both your arms are kind of up. He was down like that with his head kind of covered. And so these things were standing over his left shoulder and over his right shoulder. So when I stepped forward and said, "Hey," the one on his right shoulder just turned its head. The one on its left turned around and looked at me. And as soon as they looked at me, I got like ice cold. Like I had been outside all night, no fire, no nothing. Like it was like a bolt just shot through me, and I was freezing. And I noticed them, and they noticed me, and the fact that it was me noticing them messed with them, and they said to each other. The one on my dad's right looked at the one on the left and said, "He's powerful. Don't mess with him." And then they both looked back at my dad, and they both just kind of materialized away like dust. They were gone. So to describe these things, this is the part that really screws me up, because I don't know what they are, but based off of what I saw, I I can say what they are. But so to explain them, they're tall figures. They're about as tall as I am, 6'5", somewhere around there, maybe a little bit taller, maybe 7. They were horned. Um, they had um, very beady eyes, like, if that makes sense. Their pupils were very, very small. The rest of their eye was, I don't remember the color, but they were just like, yeah, I don't know. The way I explain it, they were evil, I guess. Maybe I said red a minute ago. They weren't red. They just had an evil, just bad look to them. Like it just, like I said, I have photographic memory, and this stuff is like, it's in my head. It's burned into my head. I'm never gonna forget it until I die. The little beady eyes, the rest of their body. So this is a part that's really, really weird to me that I don't understand. Um, the rest of their body looked like TV static, but it had shape, and it had, like, I could tell that it was like a silhouette that I was seeing with very, very low definition. So I could see their chest. Their chests were broad, really muscular. They almost had like pectorals, like really strong bodybuilder-esque pectorals. Their hands were 3-fingered. Their toes were 3-toed, and they had a toe that kind of extruded out of the back of their foot, kind of like a high heel that would set on the ground to where it was, I don't know. Yeah, the best way I can explain is there's almost like a high heel that would touch. But yeah, 3-toed, that one weird thumb thing that came off their foot, and then they had tails too. So the horns are something else that they weren't really as visible. Um, they weren't really as visible. They were more along the lines of the rest of them that was kind of TV static. I could see that one of them had a broken horn. It's like the silhouette that I could visibly see that one of these protrusions that came off of their head, it had the shape of like a horn or like an antler, and it was broke. One was shorter than the other. And then the other one, his were completely different. His were more like straight back in a way. Like they stuck out, like protruded out of to the back, to the side. But this one of them was straight back. The other one was kind of out to the sides, like a deer almost. But they both had horns, and they both had 3 fingers, 3 toes, tail with that high heel, like thumb, whatever, toe extrusion, whatever that thing was. They all had it. Um, yeah, and when they whisked away, this is the part. The whole thing is it's super scary, to me, because they acknowledged me, and they said that I was powerful. And my mom always told me that you're going to be powerful one day, when I was way young. Like, so it's like they knew me, they knew who I was, and they knew in this time my dad was weak, and these things eat and survive off of the weakness and the negative energy. And this was the strongest they had ever been, because at this time my dad fell into a really deep state of alcoholism, to the point where it was ruining my parents' marriage pretty much. Um, so the negativity that was coming off of him was feeding these things, and that's how I think that's how they were able to manifest in that manner, that I could see them, because of the negativity. It was, yeah, it was excruciating. There was a chill and just pain is what I felt immediately. Just chill, cold, oh my gosh, and just hurt. I just hurt on the inside.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and that gave me chills. The hairs on my arms are standing up, and I was looking over my shoulders just because I don't know, it was a powerful encounter, and the way you shared it was very accurate. All your theories about what happened was very accurate, and that's exactly what I was thinking as well. Um yeah, I was going to ask, why do you think this happened, but yeah, you gave a very good description. What else did
Yeah.
you encounter after that or before that?
After that, um, this is kind of the rest of it, I guess. I get it's notable, but it wasn't notable to me because I've dealt with this next part. I've dealt with a few times. So I believe that my dad was taken control by these things. One of them, at least one of them. I believe he was taken control by one of them. So as I saw them and they whisked away, that was another instance where I don't remember going back upstairs. I don't remember anything, walking, sitting down where I was. I just remember they kind of dusted away, and everything fades from there. And then when I came to, I was upstairs sitting on my couch, and my everyone was around me, and nobody was saying anything. It's like it's almost like it never happened. Like I never went downstairs. It's like nobody made a difference. Like, hey, you're back. It's like I never went anywhere. So that that night, so my mom's in the kitchen making making food, and doing mom stuff, and she never stands still, but she was in the kitchen, and my dad came up the stairs, and we have an island in our kitchen, and he got up to the top of the steps, and he walked over to the island, and he swiped everything off the island, and he slammed his head on the table 3 times. When he did, he looked up at my mom and told her that she was a reptile, which totally weird and inaccurate from my mom, because she's like just I don't know what to call her, like spiritual warrior or something. I don't know. She's definitely not a reptile, and she's definitely not being controlled by one. After that happened, my mom told my dad that he needed to go. Like, you need to go, you need to get away from me, and that you need to leave. And he, if I remember correctly, after that happened, I think he went back downstairs, and I didn't see him. I I feel like I didn't see him for 2 days after that. He didn't leave the house. He went just straight back to the basement. And I don't know what my mom did, but I feel like the next time I saw my dad, he wasn't that person that came up the stairs and swiped everything off the counter. He was totally different.
Yeah.
So the encounter, some of the other encounters that I had. I mean, I've seen people, what people would traditionally call as possessed. I've seen, I've witnessed it, I've felt it. I think I have had instances where these entities creep in to me, not in the sense of they can control me, but things get manipulated, and it's not me that they're controlling, it's my surroundings, but it makes me answer them in some way. Like I I just the best way I can explain is very recently this has happened. I get home and I've had a really good day at work, like really good day at work. And I get home and instantly when I get in my front door and I close it behind me, it's a snap. I don't I've never been formally diagnosed with any mental ailments, illness, whatever. I've never been that doesn't happen with me at all. I usually don't just snap and I'm in a different mood, different character, different person, nothing. But as soon as I shut the door behind me, it was like boom, I am PO'd at everything. Everything that I can look at, everything that I can see, I'm just mad. And I don't know how. And I started analyzing and processing. It took me a day to kind of get through it, but it I definitely reset and I understood what was going on. I said, they're back. It's back. Whatever this entity is that feeds on negativity is back. And, I've been taking steps of my own to, send them out, cast them away. And it seems to be working. But the more negativity that there is in the house, the more prevalent their presence is. So the possession type deal, I guess I'm not really. It doesn't freak me out as much because I've seen it more, and that's what I would explain the thing that what happened with my dad where he hit his head on the counter, and told my mom that she was a reptile and all this stuff. Like I would explain that as almost a possession. Like I feel like that's not the right word for it, but
Yeah.
it's the closest thing I think that everyone would understand.
Yeah, that
If I had
makes
to tell
sense.
somebody, like, yeah,
I think they're responsible, not all the time, but for people, how they change with their mood, even mental health
mm,
problems, illnesses. I think a lot of the times people are being attacked by these things and they don't even realize it.
yeah, yeah. People are shutting off to spirituality. I think it's one of the, it's such a, it's a wonderful thing. It really is, but like, it's a scary thing too, and you really have to guard yourself when you go into the realm of like trying to figure out this stuff and really, like, I guess enlighten yourself, if that's the right term for it. You have to really be careful because this stuff it's the real deal. Like I don't think people understand that, and there people are just so shut off to these other sides of life and this world that we're on, and it's sad. It sucks.
Yeah, I've had many, many paranormal experiences like yourself, and I can relate. Some of them I can't even describe because they were so in depth. The synchronicity was so intense, and everything that happened was scary. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, but I'll tell you just because you're the right person to tell. And it's kind of a long one. I don't know if you want to hear it.
I was about to ask you. I don't know if you want to tell it to me off record, but I'm game. I really am interested. You seem, and it's such a funny thing. I won't steal time from you, but it's so weird how things just line up. When I just watched the uh the video of the guy that lives in Virginia. You just did another one in Virginia very recently. Um, God, I forget the gentleman's name, but he lived in Virginia and he lived in a part of Virginia that I actually know and I'm pretty close to. I'm close enough to that I could drive there. And it freaked me out. But it's like all these things, little things just happen in unison. And it's like you're meant to be here. And I feel like that with this story, like us talking about this stuff, it's like it's almost like it's meant to happen. And yes, and the reason why I came to you is because I also feel like you're the right person to hear these things. Like it's so weird, but yeah, please, definitely, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. This one's really hard to talk about, and I haven't told too many people. The last person I told was my buddy Chris from Minnesota, and I was drinking pretty heavy, so I don't even think I made much sense. I don't drink anymore, but basically in my early 20s, I was having issues with a past girlfriend, and she moved out, but we were trying to get back together, and it just didn't seem like it was going to work. And basically, she showed up at my house one day and told me that her brother, that went to church a lot, um, was talking to her about the sounds from hell in Russia, and it's a recording that's on YouTube that these Russian
Yeah.
miners, I guess they drilled into the ground and they record the sounds of the earth to hear like
Yeah.
changes within the earth, and they can tell if there's
I'm
going to be
I'm
earthquakes.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she told me about it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what she's talking about, but I remember her telling me about that, and I was sitting in my house about 3 days after that, and I was in my computer room, my music room where my guitars are at, and I was sitting there playing Battlefield 3 on my computer,
Oh
and
yeah, such a good game.
yeah, I had a Bud Light next to me, a few of them, and I was smoking cigarettes. And my buddy was in the living room and he was playing Call of Duty. He had the TV turned up so loud it sounded like a war zone in there. And all of a sudden, I start hearing voices like chatter.
Mm,
And
mm,
I couldn't figure out what it was. So I ended up turning off my computer and then I shut off everything in there. I unplugged everything, and I'm literally on my hands and knees, and I can hear a voice or two voices. It sounded like male and female talking back and forth, just chittering, like chattering back and forth. And
mm.
eventually, like I go into the living room and I'm like, Brad, turn off the TV. He's like, why? I was like, just turn it off. And I was like, come in here. So he comes in there, he sits down with me, and I tell him what happened, and we hear nothing. And he doesn't believe me. Like, he's just kind of looking at me, like, with his eyebrows up. And I'm like, I'm serious. There was people in here talking. And all of a sudden, the voices start again. And this is where the story gets really creepy. All of a sudden, this voice comes through the amplifier. The amplifier is not plugged in, and it's this like black
Oh my
preacher.
god.
It's like a black preacher, and he's like, I remember when I was in hell, the voices that I heard. He's like, I was Catholic. I used to drink. I used to smoke, and it was like a preacher, like an African American preacher, and it was so clear coming through the speaker. And all of a sudden, I tell my friend Brad, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this certain girl telling me about the sounds from hell. So I turned back on my computer, I plugged it all back in, turned it back on, and I get on YouTube and I type in sounds from hell. The first video that comes on the YouTube list, I click on it. It's the same exact guy that's talking through my speaker. And he's talking about the sounds from hell and like that video from Russia that my girlfriend was telling me about. And
Mm.
after that, like after my friend left, and it was like days later, weeks later, months later, I started hearing voices. There was like babies crying in the house. One time I was sitting in that same computer room and something like strung my acoustic guitar and you could hear nails clicking across each string. It was like doon 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 doon. And oh my gosh, there was so much stuff that happened. But whenever that voice was talking through my speaker, I was recording it with my Motorola smartphone at the time, and I got the whole thing on
No
film.
way.
And 2 weeks later, after that, it said like file not supported, like corrupted file. And I tried to get that
What?
file and it just wouldn't work. But yeah, there was all kinds of stuff that happened in that house. And
Holy cow,
yeah,
man.
it was a lot to deal with, but I feel like I had an attachment or something was trying to attack me, and
Yeah.
I mean, I was weak too. I mean, I couldn't find the strength to leave this person. I couldn't stop drinking, or I
Mm,
was drinking to deal with the situation, and yeah, I
mm.
feel like I was being attacked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy. It's one of those things. That's weird. I have also had an experience with an amplifier too,
Really,
myself, and I've also heard of another claim of a friend of mine that five people heard the same thing out of the amplifier, not what you heard, but so the story with the five different people is so I used to be affiliated with a couple of people that were in a band. They had an experience in their house that um changed all their minds, freaked them out totally. So over one of their amplifiers that was it was on, but it was like on kind of standby. Like they had just got done with practice, I think, and nobody was touching anything. No one was near it at all. There was kind of the band stuff, and then there was a couch that kind of divided like a living area and the band stuff, and then everyone was sitting on that couch and on the other chairs in the area. Well, the way that it was explained to me is that they were all just sitting there, And out of the corner of the room, out of that amplifier, came a voice that said, it's on my chest. I can't breathe. So they start looking into things because they've also had different experiences and stuff. Well, I think their dad knew a little bit more than he was leading off about, spirituality and stuff. And he coined the name Jeremy, that they were calling him Jeremy because they didn't know what else. I think he may have heard it through the amp, but I don't remember hearing that. I just remember hearing that their dad said, "Oh, that's Jeremy." I used to go over there and have experience, and they'd be like, "That's Jeremy." Well, so they look up um, a story from the town that where their house used to be was a bus depot for a school. They live like 150 yards from a school. So this school has been here for a while. So they had what happened in the story is that this person that was a mechanic was working on this bus, and one of the jacks and the axle stands let go, and when it did, the brake rotor went into the gentleman's chest. And they think that the "I can't breathe, it's on my chest" is the gentleman that passed away. Well, they come to find out that the gentleman's name was Jeremy that passed away. To me, I'm like, that is 100% like, that's who it is for
Mhm.
sure. Like with my experience, I'm like, who else could it be? What other? And I've read the article. Like they sent me everything. And they're like, dude, this happened. Here's the article. Like I'm telling you, 5 people were telling me the exact same story. I'm like, I believe them 110%. I believe them just based off of what I know. So that's freaky. But I had an experience yet in my house where it was kind of the same deal. Like, sitting around the house and you just hear, somebody say something, and it sounds like distant conversations. Like if you're at an old bar or something like that, like it just sounds real acoustic and like it's kind of far away. But yeah, that I've had experience with amps too, and it's freaky, like really freaky to hear you say that. I got the willies when you were like, yeah, through my amplifier. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, okay. So it's not just me that's having the weird stuff like that too. That's really cool.
Yeah, and the freaky part was that preacher that was coming through my amp. He said he was
Mhm.
Catholic. He remembers when he used to drink, when he used to smoke, and I was Catholic. I was drinking, I was smoking, and man, it was freaky. And whenever I looked up those sounds from Russia, like that really gave me like PTSD. Hearing the roars of people screaming, like it sounded like an ocean of people suffering, and it was just awful. And the fact that there was that synchronicity, like it never left my mind, and it pushed me towards God and believing in God. I'm not going to say I'm perfect or I'm like this person that really studies the Bible, but I believe in him, and when I mess up, I really turn to God. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and preach to anyone, but when you experience evil in its truest form, you know that
Oh yeah,
angels and all that are real, everything.
yeah, yeah. That's my, like I said, I grew up in a really religious household, and I think that I don't know. I feel like I grew up in a Southern Baptist home, and it was real laxed. It was real laid back and stuff like that. And it wasn't super crazy, So but I think as I got older, I sort of, I don't want to say I strayed away from Southern Baptist, but I I, I don't know. I always encourage people to do this. Is really just get out there and feel, like on a spiritual level, like find out what you believe in. Whether I'm there might be people out there that are like, oh, that's wrong. It's however it goes. But I think that, yeah, with my beliefs, I believe that there's something out there. I might not know exactly what it is, but there has to be. You look at I have these moments all the time where I sit back, and it's like the most real moments where it's like I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, what am I? Where did I come from? How did all this happen? How did I get here? Like, and it's scary because I feel like I'm collapsing on myself when this stuff happens. And it's like in an instant, as soon as I snap back, I'm like, I'm fine. I know why I was here. Like, I know what's going on. Like, I don't have the answers to, like, oh yeah, this is what happened. God put us here, blah blah blah. But it's like, it's just crazy. I don't know. I don't know how else to really explain it. But
Yeah, no,
spirituality is a really interesting thing.
it really is. And it doesn't matter if you're Southern Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholic, you find God or whatever you want to call God through your heart. You're judged by your heart.
Yeah,
And I think that's what's
yeah,
most important.
yeah, yeah. I definitely believe that, and I think that that everybody's allowed to believe in something, and it's whether it's right and wrong. I agree. It's up to them. It's what's right to you. What's right to you? Are you a good person? Do you make the right choices? Is something driving you, or are you just, you out here, killing people, or just being bad? Like there's something that drives all of us, and I think that when you really start to tap into what it is that's driving you, that's really when you kind of start to open up and realize there's more to life than just going to work, eating, sleeping. It's crazy. It's a wild endeavor. All of it is.
Yeah. And a lot of the people listening that
Yeah.
never had a Bigfoot encounter and want to know more about it, they're seeking these answers themselves. They want to know if there's more out there in life than just the regular mundane go to work, go to sleep, wake up, do the same thing. And they're trying to find a meaning to life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I started. Obviously, I feel like I'm still on kind of my journey, but I think that you have to start. And I guess if I had to, leave a message for anybody at this point, it's you got to start somewhere, and it's never too late. That's something that I feel like, for me, it's like, you're eventually you're going to end up on the path. You're going to stumble across it, or you're going to walk there yourself. But eventually you're going to hit the path, and it's up to you to follow it, or it's up to you to not follow it. It's your life. Do what you want to do. I encourage people all the time to get on the path and follow it, because it's going to lead you to some really, really great places.
Yep. And I picture the path kind of being like just this straight, even road, and you want to walk that road. It's the easiest road to walk, but if you veer off
Yeah.
that path, it's these steep ravines and these
Yeah.
canyons, and it's a lot more difficult than just walking straight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's reminiscent to your videos I watch. It's like, as soon as when you start getting off the beaten path, it's like it just gets harder. I mean, you find your answers you're looking for, but it gets harder. And I think it's real reminiscent on life. Sometimes the hard path it's going to get you there, but it's not definitely not going to be easy to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I definitely agree. Yeah. There's there's so many, man. I'm telling you, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours about just just Bigfoot stuff, my own theories, spirituality,
Yeah.
um, stuff like that,
Well, let me
for
ask you
sure.
this. Do you think your encounter is connected to the spiritual encounters that you've experienced in your life?
See, I kind of felt like you were going to ask me that, and I don't know. I really don't know. I've thought about it, put some thought into it, and um, the common kind of thing that I've come up with is that um, it's connected, but it's not. I guess it happened because I'm already I'm already seeing that part of this plane of existence. So I think that it's like I'm already kind of keyed in to see these things, and me seeing things in the past didn't cause the Bigfoot thing to happen, but me seeing things in the past and having, I guess, my spiritual eye open definitely helped with me seeing it. I guess it made me open to the idea of that, and it made me want to look into it further, because I know that there's more out there than just cut and dry. I know there's more. So I would say that I guess would be my answer, is that yes, but I guess not in the common way. Like, one didn't lead to the other, but because one happened, this one, the possibility for this one to happen was there. So yeah.
Yeah. And you turned back around to try to witness it again. A lot of people, when they see this, they just like deny it. They say maybe it was, like a bear or something, and they block it out of their mind. I've heard that a lot from people.
Yeah. Yeah, that and it's what's funny is the bear thing. Yeah, that it's definitely something that came up in my mind. Like for a fleeting second, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't real." Like it's just the normal part, the human part. That's just the cut and dry, Monday through Friday kind of person. And me was like, "Oh, that was nothing." And then I started thinking about it because we don't have bear around here, and if we do, they're like small black bear. Like they're not big at all. So I'm like, "There's no way that could have been a black bear." Like it was huge. Like I feel like I feel like one of them minivan sized grizzly bears that you hear about in Alaska or whatever could give this thing a run for its money, but it would be like Godzilla versus Kong. Like it would be a crazy battle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're more aware of these things, and your mind is open to many possibilities. So you're always analyzing everything and paying more than just attention to detail, but you're open to everything in life.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. Yeah, it's like that's what I tell people. It's like you see it and then you can feel it. If I had to explain it, like I don't know. It's the best way I know how to explain it. That's what I've told people, and it seems to get some luck with people. Is that like I said, you see it and you feel it. There's two separate things, and for sure, yeah, I was definitely feeling it that day.
Hmm. Let me ask you a personal question. After talking about your paranormal encounter, do you feel like an energy, like a rush of adrenaline? I do. I don't know. I just figured I'd ask you.
um, I don't feel no. So I wouldn't explain it as a rush of energy. No, I feel um maybe it is. I got a little bit of shakes in my core, but I wouldn't explain it as like a rush of energy. Really, like I feel good. Like it feels good to talk to you about it and for you to understand and you to be, understanding because you've had your own encounters and stuff like that. So to me it's just I don't know. I feel good.
Yeah, I feel
Like
good
I'm
too.
not
I
freaking out,
got the creeps though a little bit just because I haven't talked about that for a long time, and
Yeah.
I've had instances where I talk about my paranormal activity and things start taking place. Have you ever had that happen? Just talking about it, or maybe just watching ghost
Oh,
shows?
yeah, I can damn near Um, yeah, I talk about. I was gonna say I can damn near manifest stuff, but yeah, if I talk about it, if I can almost, I don't want to say conjure it because it makes me feel like I'm saying it like, oh, I got a cauldron and I'm stirring up this witch's brew. But no, yeah, when I talk about these things and I pay attention to it, it happens more. And I've had to tell my fiance that um, there's times where she's at home and there's something going on in the house, and she'll tell me she'll be like, we just had one of my cats pass pretty recently, and like the one of the things that we've had that happens, and I'm outside right now, so whatever it is that's in there, I don't feel, I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't feel like it can hear me, so I can talk about it, and it's not gonna do anything. We've had instances where the cat, hold on.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, never mind. Sorry. We've had instances. So the cat that we just had, her name was Mama Girl. Well, her name was Princess, but we called her Mama Girl. She had a very distinct like meow. Like we know, like if that cat, if you put that cat in a herd of cats, I would know if she was there. As we're sitting in the house sometimes, and definitely my old lady when she's alone. I say old lady loosely. It's Southern term, whatever. She's sitting in the house alone. Um, she'll hear Mama Girl just meow like she's down the hallway, just down the hallway. And I know that these things can mimic because I've heard, um, oh, there's another deep one. I've heard my own voice before. And that is have you ever had that before?
No, but I've heard other people's voices in my ear say Miguel.
Yeah. Okay. So hearing, hearing your own voice is terrifying. I heard my own voice one time say, "What are you doing here?" And it was just like that. It's, "What are you doing here?" Like, it was a question. It was me. It was my own voice, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. I heard it clear as day. It wasn't in my ear. It was like, it seems so cliche or whatever the word would be, but it was just out of sight where I couldn't see it, where I had to investigate. And that's what it wants. It wants you to investigate. It wants you to give in. When, as soon as you give in, you're giving it the power. You're giving it the power to do whatever it wants. And that's what they feed off of that. If you don't give them that power, they're harmless. They cannot hurt you. So I always tell my fiance, when you hear anything like that, we used to hear dogs yipping, like a little puppy going, like it's like doing a little bark. We used to hear that from my basement. We hear the cat meowing. I've heard voices. I've heard what sounds like someone walking. Um, I've heard so many things, dude. I've had some wild, wild experiences, and yeah, the one is just definitely, yeah, the cat and the voices for sure. I've had some wild ones like that.
Wow, that just gave me the chills. So over at my brother's place, whenever I'm over there, we'll hear like a bang in the house or like something opened up like a cabinet door and just like shut it. And this was more recent. I was getting ready to leave. I was telling my brother bye. His little bully breed was sitting right next to him. Really sweet dog. And
Yeah.
we heard roof. Like it was a clear dog bark, like roof. And his dog looked over, he looked over, I looked over, and we walked over there. And I was like, dude, what was that? And he didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. And the dog was staring intently. But yeah, that's weird that you said that. I don't know. That's strange.
They they definitely like mimic. That is one thing I always, if someone's kind of going down a path and they're noticing things, is like, I tell them, I'm like, these things they're gonna try to hit you very close to your heart. If they want you, they want you. They're going to try everything they can do, everything they can to get you. And that means if they mimic a cat that just passed away, if that means they mimic a parent, a grandparent, anything, any noise that you have connection to or anything you have connection to, they're going to do it. So I always warn people just to be careful. Don't give them the power. That's the best thing that I've learned in my years of, spirituality and just delving into it. As I've learned a lot. I've guarded myself quite a bit, and I've learned a lot, and I've I love passing it on if I can.
Yeah, that helps me out a lot just because I always give it attention. I go and investigate it. Like, what was that? Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Did you hear that? And I think it's better just to ignore it.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I know, I can feel it when it's something that if it's something that goes bump in the night and it's something that is physical, you can tell the difference. But if it's something that just goes bump in the night, that it isn't physical, it's something I can tell the difference. So there's times where we'll be in bed, and I'll be laying in bed with my old lady, and we'll be trying to sleep, and I'll wake up. Like, this is one experience that really happened that was weird. um I woke up in the middle of the night. I mean, it was probably 3, 4 in the morning, just out of a dead sleep. And I woke up, I was wide awake. It's totally weird for me. So I woke up and I got 3 knocks, and they came from actually outside of my house. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And I said to myself, I guess the Bigfoot community calls it mind speak, where it's kind of I send out a message in the I guess the mind speak way. And I sent out a message that said, if you are intelligent, if you know your intentions, do that again. And as soon as I said do that again, it went boom, boom, boom. And I was like, okay, I understand you're intelligent, and I understand you know what your intentions are. You're trying to make yourself known to me. That's fine. I acknowledge your existence. Now leave me alone. And I rolled over, fell back asleep like a baby. I was fine.
Yeah. That's pretty creepy for sure. One
Yeah.
time I ordered this Alienware desktop computer, and the box was sitting in my kitchen. It's a giant box for anyone who's ever seen like a Dell computer or like an Alienware computer. It's a big tower. But I was sitting there on my new computer in the living room. My dog was curled up right next to me, and something kicked this box. Like if somebody was wearing like a boot or a cowboy boot, just kicked it as hard as they could.
Mm.
And I saw that box jump up. Well, my husky, he jumped up like a rodeo bull, like boom, his back legs were all the way up. And as soon as he came down and landed, he's just staring into the kitchen, just staring. And he's not moving, and that really freaked me out. There was a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
was going on during that time. There was another point where I told you about the baby crying in the earlier story, but it happened again years later. This baby just started crying, just like it was choking on its own breath, just trying to get air. And I'm looking for this baby like all over the place under my bed. I'm moving things around. I can hear. I got my ear to the ground, and at this point I'm living with a different girl, and it's snowing outside, and I open up the curtain, and there's like this lady walking by my house like in a robe, like while it's snowing hardcore. And the
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time asked me, "What'd you see?" And I said nothing. But it was strange. And I guess it's because I'm giving it attention, and my fear is causing it.
Yeah. So the what is the I don't know. I'm gonna ask you something that's really weird. So I think it's really weird. Maybe it's not. Has your any of your you said you have a husky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have that dog like today?
Yeah, I still have him. He's a Siberian Husky, blue eyes, black and
Yeah.
white, and he's a really good looking dog. Awesome dog.
Okay. Does this dog have something like weird about its nose?
What do you mean? Like weird about his nose?
Like, is there something off about its nose? Like, is there like a spot or like a scratch or like a dent or something in its nose?
No, he's pretty well proportional. Like he looks like a really healthy dog. Just everything about him is just like, man, that's one of the best huskies I've ever seen.
Okay. I just curious. I had a weird feeling because I has he or your dog has they ever been on film?
No,
Like, have you had them on the channel? No. Okay.
no, I haven't had him on the channel. I can take a photo of him or
Okay.
look up an old photo if you want to see him.
Yeah.
Why do you
Yeah. No.
ask
I
though?
mean,
I'm
yeah.
curious now.
So um I had a feeling. So have you ever owned any other huskies at all? Like, is this your only one?
Yeah, I've had him for like a little over 10 years.
Okay. I'm just curious. I'm like somehow, some way, uh I don't know. How much time do you got? Do you have like a few more minutes?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So I have a really weird connection to huskies and wolves in my life. So huskies are such a weird thing. So I got uh one day when I was watching the channel, I got a strike of an image in my head when I was watching it where I saw you in the woods with a husky. This one was brown and it had one blue eye, like one ice blue eye and one brown eye. And it had a weird, like, something was up with its nose. I can't remember if it had like a dent or a scratch or like a spot, like a different color spot on its nose. But it struck me because the I feel like, and I have to go back. I'm the worst at sometimes at collecting evidence, but I have to go back and look. But there was a video where the exact point that I saw you with this dog on like this trail popped up in one of your videos, like to the trees, the leaves, like the boots you were wearing, like the it was weird and it stuck out to me. I'm like, you said something about a husky. I had no idea that you owned a husky at all. Like, I didn't hear about it. I haven't heard any stories, nothing. But it was just weird to me that there was a video I was watching. It was one of the I don't know if it was one of the Killing Fields videos, but it's one of these videos where you're walking down a trail and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I remembered that flash and was like, Jesus, I've seen this before, 100%. And it made me think about that. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, that's what I saw. And it just gave me willies earlier when you told me, you're like, yeah, I have a dog and a husky. blah blah blah. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, is the husky brown? Does it have something on its nose? Like those are some of the things that I saw, like characteristics of this dog that I saw. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
That's why I asked. I was like, I have a weird thing with huskies and stuff, and wolves. Really, wolves are really really significant in my life. That and it's not just any wolves; it's white wolves. I had a spiritual encounter with one that was in my house, and it was when my whole family got really sick, like really really sick, and my dad, my brother, and my mom went to the ER, and they pretty much told my dad that if he waited 10 minutes longer, he would have died. This is one of the nights that I had one of my encounters where my mom flashed an image to me and said, I want you, basically in this message, she said, I want you to prepare yourself. Your father's going to die. And I was like, okay. Like it freaked me out, but this was one of those things where I blacked out. And when I blacked out, I was home alone. I blacked out. And when I came to, I was standing in front of a TV stand, and I was kind of leaning down, like, kind of just taking a break with my head down, standing though. And I looked up, and there was a cross right in front of me, and it said memories. And the message that I received after that was, hold on to the memories of you and your dad. Just latch onto those, because it's coming, and you need to be prepared for it. So this was years ago. My dad didn't pass until years later. The image I got of his passing is like similar to the same setting that how it happened and everything. But so that night when I blacked out, I was home alone. By the time I came back to, like I said, I was standing, and my mom's best friend at the time was now there with me, because my mom called her and said, you need to go be with Michael. He's alone and things are happening. She didn't know what that meant. She knew that my mom had spiritual encounters and stuff, but so Denise, my mom's friend, comes over, and while I'm blacked out, she comes up to me, and apparently I was talking to her. And then something happened. She said, I stood up, got up, and I went and just leaned on the TV stand. And that's when I came to. When I came to, like I said, the cross was there, said memories, and I got another like verbal, like flash is what I call them. That was just like, latch on to the memories you have with you and your father. And then Denise, I heard Denise's voice. It was like, are you okay? Because she was freaked out. She's like, I don't know what the heck is going on. So I turned around to her and I said, yeah, I think I'm okay. It's like something weird just really happened. And she said, yeah, your mom sent you something, didn't she? I was like, what? Like nobody knew about this. So I was like, what? What do you mean? She's like, your mom sent you something. I know she did. So what are you talking about? She said, you and your mom can talk to each other without moving your mouth, without being in the same house. You can talk to each other. I was like, well, and then I blurted it out. That was kind of our dirty little secret. I was like, well, she talks to me. I wasn't talking to her yet at that time. I said, she talks to me. And she said, what did she tell you? And I told Denise what my mom told me. And she said, your mom was in the emergency room with the doctor. And the doctor said that if they'd have been there 10 minutes later, he would have died from whatever, I forget what sickness it was, but it was really serious. It was something in his lungs. It was stuck in his lungs really bad. It's probably like pneumonia or something like that. But she said, your mom told you to prepare for something that could happen. That's what that was. Like, it had to be. Well, as the night goes by, it's a relatively normal night. I'm sitting there playing Guitar Hero, hanging out, and Denise is sitting on the couch reading a book or something like that. Well, and it's like, I always see it when the best way I can explain it to I guess make it make sense so to where you would understand it is like, and maybe you do without it, but when activity starts happening in the woods, like Bigfoot, Sasquatch activity starts happening, how the woods go quiet. That's a common thing that I hear. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the house went quiet, like everything was on mute. Like even like the Guitar Hero, the strumming of my guitar, everything was on mute, and everything stopped. It's like the earth stood still. I look over my left, and I look, and as clear as I'm looking at, you know, something physical, I look up and there is a white wolf, literally a white wolf standing in the doorway to my kitchen. And um, I look at it and I'm like, what? I'm like, this is not real. There's no way this is real. The dog, the wolf, I say, bows its nose, putting its nose to the ground, keeping its eyes on me, bows its head, picks its head back up, and it turns around and walks through my kitchen. So as it walks through my kitchen, I can hear its nails across the floor, getting quieter. And then I can hear boom, 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 boom down the steps. And I'm like, holy shit. And Denise is like, what's wrong with you? I said, stay there. And I stand up. I go down and I go down the steps. And as I walk down, and this is after one of the bigger, the thing that I told you about earlier with the thing standing over my dad, this wolf went down the steps around the corner and stopped right where my dad was sitting and disappeared.
Oh, wow.
And I stood there and was like freaked out. And that was at that point when that happened, I blacked out. I don't remember what happened. Denise, the next thing I know, Denise is down there, you know, being supportive. She's like kind of holding my arm and just like kind of rubbing my shoulder. And she's like, what did you see? I said, well, I don't quite know, but I'll explain it to you. And I explained it to her. And then we started doing some research. And I did some, I guess, I don't want to call it soul searching because I think it's something else, but I did some kind of spiritual outreach myself. And what I learned is that white wolf is my protector. It was telling me that no matter what happened, I was safe. And and this is, to me, this is the solidifying stamp of approval thing that tells me that is the truth. My whole family got sick, but me. So to me, I'm like, whoa, like, okay, this protector, obviously, I don't know if it protected me from the illness, but it's just a little weird that the spiritual search that I did told me it was a protector, and I was the only one out of my entire family that wasn't sick, like deathly ill sick. So that's weird to me. I've had many more, and even as of recently, I've had many more encounters with the wolves, and some of them are very significant in my life where I know they were protecting me from some evil. Like I can go into them another time, but it's pretty significant. But to me, the wolves, the huskies, are really, really significant in my life because I've always wanted a husky because I can't own a wolf. If I could own one, I'd definitely own one.
Yeah.
You know, but
I appreciate you sharing that with me. A lot of the encounters, experiences that I had were mainly like my dog was there a lot of the times. And
wow.
When the UFOs pass over the house, he goes nuts. Like it almost sounds like he's crying, like moaning and stuff. Like, so I know to go out there and look up into the sky. But one time he was doing that, and this black triangle floated over the house. It was ginormous. It had 3 bright lights, but the back right one was brighter than the rest. And it felt like time slowed down, like the earth was getting pushed back. Like I was getting pushed back, and that thing was sitting still. And it was very strange. And I'm kind of rushing through all this because I know you have to get off the phone, but where I seen the white Sasquatch whenever I hit him with the spotlight, I think you've heard that story before. I saw all these eyes in the woods, and then I heard and I swung the spotlight over in that direction in a gap in the woods, and I saw the white Sasquatch walk across the gap. It was probably years later. I went back down to where I followed where he came out of, and I found all these cedars that were pushed over, and it was snowing during that time. Well, I saw this big shadow go over my shoulder, and I'm like, what the heck was that? Well, it was a giant white owl, and I'm talking about bigger than any great horned owl you've ever seen. It was probably twice the size, and it landed on this limb, and he was just staring down at me, and his eyes were like orange, like an orange red color. It was like fire. And we were just staring at each other, and I slowly moved my left hand towards my pocket to grab my phone, and he looked down at my hand, and then he flew off. But I've never seen an owl that big in my life, and it was snow white. And it was weird that I seen him whenever it was snowing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: have you had any other experiences with owls before?
Mm, I see him all the time. I'm not gonna say all the time, but every now and then, like sometimes they'll come up to my window and just be like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh," like loud, loud, and it'll wake
Hmm.
me up sometimes. I've had experiences with the Sasquatch and owls. Um, if I could remember, like if I could think of everything right now, I would say yes, but it's like a lot of it just comes to me when other people talk about their experiences.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to remember everything, and then sometimes the way that we store things is yeah, it does take somebody else to kind of kickstart you. I have that all the time where it's like I don't I you know it's humanly possible just to remember everything. Like, but yeah, I the reason why I ask is that there's different in uh my spiritual searching, and like just the spiritual outreach or whatever you want to call it. It's like I know that the animals for different people, if that makes sense. Some people have the same animal, some people just have difference, and there's other ones that I'm curious about. But the owl thing is to me is pretty significant. I mean, that is definitely weird that it it knew, it looked at your hand going towards your phone and it just knew. And it's like, to me, I think if I ever tried to film this white wolf, the one that I've seen in my house, not the other ones that I've seen, I knew if I go towards my phone, I feel like no one would see it. Like it's just something that it's there that I see, but no, I just don't feel like anybody else would see it. But so I'm curious, and I'll probably do a little bit more of my research. But I'm really curious about those owls, man. It definitely seems interesting, and like it's an odd thing. Like a lot of people's like I say spirit animals, but that isn't what it is. That's I think often a term misused, but I think that different people's spirit animals that I have talked to, they're always like white or like gray or silver. And there's always something with like I feel like there's always something with their eyes. So have you seen God, I had a few questions that I was gonna ask you that I have written down. Um yeah, do you mind if I run through those really quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess to pass on to the next thing. Let me pull these up. They're in my notes because I know I was like, man, I gotta ask him some of this stuff because it's super cool. And it might seem silly questions, but where did they go?
No, you're fine. Take your time.
There we go. Questions for Miguel. Is it Miguel or Miguel? What do you go by?
Miguel.
Okay. So I wrote these down because I knew that yeah, I knew that when I started messaging you and I knew I was like I'm going on. Like I'm definitely gonna go on. I'm gonna talk to him at least. So some of the questions that I had is with you're out there doing it. I'm not out in the field. Doing the Bigfoot Sasquatch research as much as I'd like to be. I'd like to go camp more and stuff like that. But since you're really out there doing this stuff, so when you found like bedding and stuff before, right?
Like Sasquatch?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I found areas where I think, they've been bedded at.
Okay. So I wonder, and you, like I said, you're kind of like the beacon at this point to me of like people come to you with their their encounters and stuff. And I wonder if you've ever heard, maybe you've done it yourself, I don't know. But have you heard of or done yourself? Have you ever taken a UV light to any of the suspected like beddings?
No, I never have, but people have recommended that in the past.
Okay, because I'm curious because I know it's like there has to be if you're 100%. I mean, if you suspect it's a bedding, there has to be some sort of trace because I think about the smell. One of my working theories with the smell is just there. I mean, shoot, look in nature. Elks pee on themselves to attract a mate. What does a Sasquatch do? What does a Bigfoot do? You know what I mean? Like, what are the things that often smells are affiliated with them? So I always think of like, man, if you go to a bedding and you just look around, some of that stuff has to rub off on its surroundings. It has to. So I think like hit it with a UV light and maybe see if you see anything that way. That might be a cool way to get to gather signs and stuff. Maybe I don't know. It's just something that dawned on me. I was like, man, there has to be traces. I mean, there you can find
Yeah.
different stuff with UV lights. So I had that question, and then so another one that I had is uh and I think we might have got into it. So what's written down, and I'm gonna riff off verbatim what I have written down. Um, what is your feeling on their senses? Like, obviously, they have higher senses than we do. I think of cats and how cats evolved to meow and make noise to speak with us. Based off some research that I've done on my own, it seems that studies show predominantly cats use body language to speak to each other more so than they use, verbal meows and stuff like that. So, um, in other words, the relation between the two, do you think that the way that cats can speak with body language to each other, do you think that the Bigfoot Sasquatch can, when they visually see us, do you think that they can sense through our body language and maybe even some other way our intentions? Because it seems like there's people that go out and um like, I guess let me finish the line here, is that, for instance, do you think when individuals go in the woods to find Bigfoot, do you think they can feel it, for lack of better words?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think they can. I think they can sense many things, especially our body language. If you ever looked at like cats or dogs, like you notice your cat just staring intently somewhere and you follow like where he's looking at and you're like, oh, there's something there. There's someone there. Or someone's coming down the driveway. Yeah, I do think it's like that with the Sasquatch. Another way is I was watching this dinosaur show about carnivores with like T-Rex and stuff, and the scientists were talking about how they could sense and hear through the pads of their feet for many miles away. And I
Wow,
think
yeah.
Sasquatch are the same way. I think dogs are the same way. That's how they know somebody's coming down the road way before you do. And I think they use echolocation. Like they do wood knocks,
Hmm.
but they also do like wood knocks with their mouth. And I think when they project that sound, it sends back an image to their brain.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's there's there's cases of humans that go blind, that some of them, like I saw, you might have seen it on YouTube, but there's a video of a guy that's using echolocation that's blind, and he's on a bicycle, and he's totally just navigating through life, just doing his thing. So I don't doubt that at all. I just wonder how well something like that would work in the woods, because you know what I mean. If it's true echolocation, it's going to bounce off every single tree and every little piece of brush. So it has there has to be something more to it, I would think. But yeah, and grounded in nature, I think too, is, I mean, if you look at elephants, elephants are the same way. Elephants, they hear through the earth. They hear through their feet. Like, from the studies I've done, it's like, yeah, that is a truth. Like, so to me, I guess really it's not outside of the realm of possibility that I guess the Bigfoot Sasquatch do the same thing. Like,
Yeah, I think it's a
they
possibility. I don't know if it's
100%.
true, but maybe like the pioneers used to
Yeah.
put like their ear down to the ground. I don't know if
Oh,
that's
dude,
actually happening,
Native
but
Americans used to do that all the time. They used
really.
to. It's actually, you watch MythBusters. It sounds stupid, but if you ever watch MythBusters, they actually prove. Um, there's an episode where they actually they put a hole in the ground and they put a drum in the hole, and the girl Tori, I think, is able to make out um, beats in the distance of them hitting, and they're farther away, like they can't see each other, and they're hitting, and the girl Tori can hear it in the drum, just going boom, boom, and it matches the same rhythm that they're doing a ways away. So it's funny, but you say that, but yeah, I think that's the truth. Like people say, oh, I think of the quote from Joe Dirt. Oh, you want me to put my ear to the ground and listen for hoofbeats? That stuff doesn't work anymore. I don't think that it doesn't work anymore. I just think that humans forgot how to do it. It's like it's definitely possible. Like the Earth is such a crazy thing. Like, have you ever got into like grounding or anything, like grounding yourself?
No, I haven't.
You should really check that out. Grounding yourself to the earth. Like, well, you probably spend enough time outdoors and stuff like that. It might just be a thing to me, but like you go outside barefoot a lot, and I don't know, you just feel good. It's weird. Like, you're actually your body, and you can go outside, and if you're familiar with like a voltmeter, like a multimeter, you can do this test yourself. But if you go outside and you stick a voltmeter into the earth and you hold the voltmeter on in your hand, you can actually measure a real small, like micro voltage, or that's what I've called it. I'm no expert, but you can actually measure a voltage in yourself. If you're barefoot and your feet are touching the earth, you can measure it. But if you have shoes on, there's no measurement.
Yeah, that is
So I think
interesting.
that these creatures definitely are grounded a lot more than we are. I'm not saying that that's granting them these abilities that people claim they have, but definitely they're creatures that spend a lot of time outside. And Bigfoot ain't got no shoes on. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's just silly, but yeah, if you spend a lot of time outdoors with barefoot, I mean, there's like health benefits to it. I mean, it's wild stuff. I try to do it, at least every now and then. I try to go outside and stand around for a little while with no shoes on and just kind of ground myself. It's an interesting theory. You should, if you ever have, some free time, you should check it out.
Yeah, I do that
It's
in my
interesting.
yard every now and then. I'm not going to say I do it a lot, but like in the summertime, it's nice to just walk around barefooted in the cool grass. But then I start thinking about brown recluses and black
Oh
widows, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh man, I'm going to put my shoes back on. One thing that I did notice when the Sasquatch were around is these loud thumps. It almost sounded like somebody picked up a giant log and threw it down on the ground. And that could be something to do with what you were talking about as far as people putting their ear down to the ground, or what you were talking about with
Mhm.
Mythbusters. And yeah, I think they can hear a long ways, and they're connected to this earth way better than we are.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like they've been connected for just as long, if not longer. And I think that we're just so in tune. They're just so in tune with it. It's like art forms that we just forgot. Like, we might not have the same abilities, but we definitely, shoes are, a fashion thing, and a lot of people spend time in shoes. And it's like, if people would ground themselves more, it's like, it's just crazy, man. It's cool. It's definitely cool. But yeah, I think they're like my dad used to say. I think they're masters of the woods. Like, they're uh they're definitely different.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like we're going to have to do a part 2 in the future, because I want to know more about, your dad's experiences and why he believed in all this, and
Yeah.
the paranormal stuff that you experienced. And I know a lot of the stuff is probably hard to talk about, but I mean, I think we could talk for hours about all this.
Oh, surprising, to a pleasant surprise myself. And I think this is why this needed to happen. Is like the story about the three fingered, like, beings that I saw. I've only ever told that one. I typically reserve because it's a little extreme. If you're not if you're not open, it's really extreme for some people to hear, and they're just like, they either don't believe it or they taps into them a little bit, and they're like, "Ooh, this is creepy." But I've only ever told that to, shoot, three people, and I think my mom was one of them. So it's like, it's my mom, my brother, and then a buddy of mine. So four people: my mom, my brother, five people. Let me extend the list: my girlfriend, fiance, and then two other people that I used to have in my friends group that I knew were kind of open. One of them was really open, and the other one was kind of like, I don't know. She would have got into it if, she spent a little bit more time looking into it. But I told them, and now it makes, I guess, six. Oh, holy cow! This makes six, but that's the thing. Everyone I've ever told, I've told, and it goes about the same, except for, like, with you, it's different. Like, it doesn't. I don't get shaky. Like, I didn't run out of breath. Like, usually I'm out of breath, can't breathe. Like, there's physical things that happen to me that keep me from telling these stories. So for me, it's like, yeah, it was meant to happen. And yeah, it's totally for a part two, or even if you just want to, just cut up or just talk or whatever. I don't. It can be anytime, man. If you want to do it, just let me know. I'm always down for a part two. I imagine I have enough encounters, just not so much with the the Bigfoot stuff myself. That was one of the main encounters. I've seen some other things, but as far as spirituality wise and just life stuff, I definitely can talk for hours.
Yeah, I could too. And I have so many questions, so many things that I could share with you. I don't know if you want to end it now, and we can talk another time.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can set up another time, man. Yeah, I'm good. I think my fiance, you might have heard it earlier. She's getting hungry. She's like, I gotta eat something like soon. I'm like, okay, I gotta feed the beast.
Yeah.
But
All right, man.
anyway,
Well, Michael, it was really good speaking with you. And my name is Miguel, but that means Michael in English. I was actually named after Saint
wow,
Michael the Archangel. So yeah,
shut up.
yeah. Were you?
I ain't even lying to you. That's yeah, same. My mom says the same thing. I was named after the gatekeeper. Is
Wow.
what she tells me all the time.
Yeah, I feel
But
like we met for a reason, and I'm super
oh
blessed
yeah,
to be able to talk to you and share these experiences with you and to be able to hear all of yours. I feel a lot better after talking to you, and it's really nice to relate with someone who actually understands. I've shared them on the channel before, but I haven't really told my family or friends about a lot of these encounters. I just do it on the podcast and see how it goes. Maybe there's other people that have experienced the
yeah.
same.
Well, buddy, I'll be your family. I'll be your friend. I'll be whatever you want me to be, man. I really, this was it was a really good time. I really appreciate you telling me your stories too. You know, I feel like a lot of the time you get a lot of accounts, and I know that you've told your stories before, but I think that, yeah, I'd hopefully people really enjoyed, you know, if you include some of your stories. I know you might not because they're a little close to home, but yeah, if whenever, man, if you want to talk, I'm always down. Yeah, and I really, really enjoy the channel. I really enjoy just the community that you have. There's a really positive community about a lot of these things. I don't really see a lot of, you know, mean, hateful comments. A lot of the stuff is, oh wow, did you notice this? And did you notice that? And this is, you know, people thanking you and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing. Thank you for giving people like us an outlet. Because that's not only all you are, you're a human being at the end of the day. And I care about you a lot. I don't even really know you for a man in the moon. I've never met you, but through your videos and through talking today, I know that, yeah, we were meant to meet. We were meant to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're family now. We're good friends,
Yeah.
and a lot of people listening, they're family too. And I'm glad a lot of people are able to relate to these stories,
Yeah. Yeah.
encounters. They're not just stories. But all right, Michael. Well, I'm gonna let you go for now, and it was a pleasure
Yeah.
speaking to you, sir.
Yes, sir. It was a pleasure speaking to you, man. Thank you again for just sharing everything. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon, man. Let me know when a good time is, and I'd love to come on again.
All right, sounds good. And keep in contact, man. We'll talk more in the future.
All right.
All right, Michael, thank you very much for sharing your Bigfoot report with me from Virginia, and I believe you 100%. And I also believe your paranormal experiences as well, just because I've had the same stuff happen to me, and it's really hard to say if it's all connected, but anytime I ask somebody who's had a Bigfoot encounter if they've had paranormal experiences, usually the answer is yes. And a lot of times when people say no, I think, you know, they might be holding back just because they're afraid of ridicule. You know, it's hard enough for people to believe that there's an unknown creature roaming around the forest of North America, but the idea of paranormal experiences taking place, I think a lot of people ridicule others, so I don't blame people for not speaking up. But usually, yes, the answer is most definitely it does happen to people who've had Bigfoot encounters. But yeah, is there a connection between Bigfoot and the paranormal? It's really hard to say, but I'm going to keep asking that question until we get more answers. And I think it's important to bring up just because there's a lot of things in this world that we don't know. And I feel like cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal activity kind of go hand in hand just because there's never a solid answer regarding the subject. But we know that it's out there, it's true, and these things are taking place. So if you've had a Bigfoot encounter that involves paranormal activity, please contact me sometime. You won't get ridiculed here, and I'd sure like to hear your encounter. So please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. And I really appreciate everyone for listening today, all the support from everyone, and the positive feedback that everybody's given me in the comments. Thank you so much. Take care and be safe out there.